Okay, let me get your attention. So, clap once if you can hear my voice. Clap twice if you can hear my voice. Clap 3 times if you can hear my voice. There we go. All right, thank you. Quick announcement. My office hours, as I mentioned last time, will be back to normal starting this Thursday. Sorry for that sort of failed experiment. I discovered that there's some people who don't come to my office hours because they can't. If there's anybody who feels like they really need an opportunity to meet with me one-on-one, perhaps about something other than, problem sets or so forth, let me know, and maybe I can try to find another time to make myself available. Another small announcement. Some of you have noticed I have newfangled technology. This piece of computer equipment has a really interesting feature, which is that how it functions is randomly selected from one time to another that I use it. There's some distribution of possible ways that it could function. This button does this, that button does the other thing, and each time I turn it on, I get a random draw from that distribution. So sometimes clicking this button, sort of like an umbrella opens up out of Mary Poppins bag, and other times the computer just turns into a paperweight. So we may have one of those fun sessions where I stand in front of my computer looking like a moron. On the possibility that that's not the case, here's what we'll be talking about. So I'm going to revisit, that didn't happen last time I used it. I'm going to revisit libertarian paternalism, which I introduced just very briefly at the end last time, and I want you to really get. So one of the big important takeaways from this section of the class is what do I mean by asymmetric libertarianism? What do I mean by asymmetric paternalism? What do I mean by libertarian paternalism? How can you determine, you see that you have temptation and willpower. I appreciate that. And to really understand, let me look at a public policy proposal or existing policy, and let me rigorously determine whether or not it satisfies the criteria of asymmetric paternalism or the criteria of libertarian paternalism or both. Okay, then we're going to go start talking about a specific example of. Here we go. So one of the big random things here is sometimes when I have the pen out, it treats the palm of my hand as if it was, sometimes it does the touchscreen thing with the palm of my hand, sometimes it doesn't. So we're going to wrestle with that. So we're going to talk about a particular case of libertarian paternalism that is it's one of the most economically relevant applications of behavioral economics in the literature so far, which has to do with how people make their retirement decisions and how a policy designed using the principles of behavioral economics could nudge people to make what we have reason to think are far superior retirement savings decisions. So I'll walk you through that. Okay. So here's where we were last time. We have this idea called libertarian paternalism, where we have these two components to it. The first one is that good behavioral economics can remove the paternalist from paternalism. So we talked last time about this definition of paternalism, which really heavily emphasizes that paternalism is when a policymaker tries to make people better off according to the preferences of the policymaker, the paternalistic father figure. Okay? So what we're trying to do both here in libertarian paternalism and in asymmetric paternalism is to come with a whole bunch of social science research that says, no, we can show that there are situations in which people are making mistakes according to their own preferences. We're coming with a category of public policy interventions designed to correct those mistakes. So in that sense, we're not being paternalistic in the sense of being an intrusive father figure. We're being paternalistic only in the sense that we are trying to help people make different decisions using some kind of intrusive public policy. Then the second piece of the definition, previously the second part of this, not definition, but second part of the agenda here, was that we're looking for asymmetric paternalism, asymmetric in the sense that the benefits to the irrational types vastly outweigh any harm that might accrue to the rational types. And in that sense, we feel like we shouldn't be too alarmed by the intrusiveness feature because it's not going to do a huge amount of damage. Here is a completely different second criterion for what should make a paternalistic policy acceptable. And it's what I call, it's this idea that these are policies that are nudging people in the sense of giving them a gentle sort of intervention to gently cause them to behave in a different way in ways that do not violate their liberty. Okay? That's very different from saying ways that do not harm rational types. So I really want to emphasize this point. Okay? So this agenda started out with a paper by Dick Thaler and Cass Sunstein from 2003 called Libertarian Paternalism. It's required reading. It's about 6 pages long. And I'm going to say some negative things about it. And they then expanded on it in a book from 2008 called Nudge. How many of you have heard in sort of like popular media or op-eds the concept of a nudge? Yeah? So this is an idea that's increasingly taking hold in policy circles. This is a horrible book. You should read the first section of it, and please read the second section with it. There it is. How long is it? The part you should read is about 75 pages, maybe, I think, maybe less. It's not that much. It's an easy read. It's conceptual. It's fine. But then they go into the second section, which is examples, and they just go, like, off the reservation. And it's just like, no, 75% of what they say in the second section does not actually relate in any rigorous way to the concepts that they lay out in the first section. So this is hugely offensive to me because I value intellectual rigor almost more highly than life itself. And this agenda violates that anyway. So let me now put some more precision on how I define this thing. So again, I'm taking the concepts in the paper and the book, and I'm trying to extract as rigorously as I can what the essence of the definition of libertarian paternalism is. Okay. So first, there's again the mistakes hypothesis, which I talked about last time. Here's a couple of quotes and they lay this out, I think, actually more rigorously. I think they actually specify the mistakes hypothesis in a clearer and more rigorous way than the asymmetric paternalism paper, Regulation for Conservatives. We emphasize the possibility that in some cases individuals make inferior choices that they would change if they had complete information, unlimited cognitive abilities, and no lack of willpower. In other words, if they were rational, that they themselves would change if they were rational. A policy is paternalistic in their definition if it tries to influence choices in a way that will make choosers better off as judged by themselves. That is the most explicit, clear, and rigorous way of defining what I call the mistakes hypothesis, the conditions under which we get to say this is not paternalism in the old-fashioned way of I tell you what's right for you, but it's paternalism in this new way that you tell me what's right for you and I help you to accomplish it. Okay? And then there's what I call the no restriction hypothesis or the no coercion hypothesis. We strive to design policies that maintain or increase freedom of choice. No coercion is involved. Now, maintain or increase so freedom of choice is this kind of politically loaded term in the United States and possibly in other parts of the world too. But in terms of how we think as microeconomists, it means something very simple, right? To maintain or increase freedom of choice means that I either don't reduce the number of elements in your choice set, or I increase them. So I weakly increase the size of your choice set, right? Okay. So I was about to give you the answer to the next clever question. So what I want to redefine this as weakly. Oh, I hate the way the stylus writes. Increase choice set. If you get one of these things, get the Lenovo, not the Dell, because it has a better stylus driver. So what do I mean by weakly increase the choice set? If something weakly increases, it means we're talking about a greater than or equal to relationship. If something strictly increases, then it's a strictly greater than. So to strictly increase your choice set would be to say, I'm going to give you new choices you didn't have before. Like, say, for example, I'm going to give you a voluntary commitment device that previously didn't exist. Weakly increase just means that I'm either going to give you new choices or I'm going to, at a minimum, not remove any of your choices, right? So your choice set will be greater than or equal to what it was before. That's my sort of rigorous technical definition or rephrasing of what Thaler and Sunstein have referred to as maintaining or increasing freedom of choice or not involving any kind of coercion, what I call the no restriction hypothesis. Does that make sense? It matters a lot because that characterization is what I'm going to expect you to be able to apply to any policy that I stick in front of you on an exam or something like that and say, okay, Acklin says this satisfies the no restrictions hypothesis for the definition of libertarian paternalism if it weakly increases the choice set. Now, what does he mean by choice set? How does this policy affect the choice set? Right? Okay? So we'll talk about that a little bit as we go along today. Okay. Quickly, just to sort of frame the comparison between this, or put on the table the comparison between this and asymmetric paternalism. Asymmetric paternalism, the second hypothesis or criterion was all about benefit cost analysis. It was all about basically saying it satisfies the no significant harm hypothesis, I think I called it, if the benefit cost analysis, where the benefits accrue to the irrational types and the costs accrue to the rational types, is asymmetrically balanced overwhelmingly towards the benefits of the irrational types, or to the irrational types. That's a criterion that is firmly rooted, as I said last time, in economic theory. This approach, the no coercion approach, or the weakly increase your choice set, looks on the surface as if it surely must satisfy the asymmetric paternalist criterion, right? Because if I'm not reducing your choices, if I'm not restricting choice in any way, then how could I possibly be making anybody worse off? The rational type will be able to make the choices that they originally wanted to make. Any irrational type, if you're concerned that maybe I pushed the irrational type in the wrong direction, well, I can say, no harm, no foul, because I didn't actually restrict their choices. They could have chosen whatever they wanted, okay? So it looks like that should automatically pass benefit cost analysis and thereby satisfy it looks like it should be a Pareto improvement. It looks like how could anybody be harmed if everybody's choice set is increased? And I'm going to sort of hopefully point at some ways in which we might question whether or not that's necessarily automatically unambiguously true. We might look at a specific situation where we might think that one of the most common nudges that people talk about could potentially actually make people worse off without restricting their choices. Okay? Any questions about this so far? Okay, now I'm going to ask you to apply it. So you can do this on your own chatting groups. We talked last time about policies designed to help people overcome the internality, the behavioral market imperfection of sort of irrational food consumption and exercise choices leading to obesity. Okay, so we talked about an insurance penalty for obesity, which is basically saying, let me put a tax on the behavior I want you to not engage in. We talked about insurance premium discounts for weight loss, which is subsidizing the behavior I do want you to engage in. Right, so conceptually these things are the mirror image of each other. And then we talked about stick.com, which is just a straight up commitment contract, and Gympact, which is a commitment contract in which the losers pay off the winners. Okay, so the question is which of these the following policies does not satisfy libertarian paternalism? My claim is that there's only one right answer. So let's start with the presumption that they all satisfy the correcting of behavioral mistakes criterion. And what we're interested in here is which of these also satisfy, which of these does not satisfy the second criterion of weakly increasing subject choices per set. Okay, sorry, not paying attention. 3, 2, 1. Okay, so there you guys are. You all pretty much think that it's the penalty for obesity. Can someone please talk me through in rigorous terms why? So that's inherently voluntary. So you're sort of, what I think I hear you saying is that the penalty has a coercive dimension to it. I'm punishing you for not doing something. But my question to you is, I just use the rather loose, vague term coercion, okay? If I come and say, I'll give you $1 million if you, I don't know, you turn around and insult the person sitting next to you. I said if. Would you concede that there's a sense in which I coerced you? I've given you, in some sense, an offer you can't refuse. I think this is an open question. We could potentially argue, yeah, I coerced you. I gave you such an incredibly favorable offer. But I don't know if that's coercion or not. It's just it's a little bit too vague of a rule to apply. So what I want to do is to turn that into weakly increases the choice set. Okay? Now, what I heard you make reference to, but not say quite precisely, is this. So previously, here were two options that were available to this person, among many others. If we think about a consumption bundle that includes being or not being obese and the amount of money that you get to have. Okay? So if this condition that is somewhat arbitrarily defined as obesity is some variable that's like a 0, 1 dummy variable. So prior to this policy, the following two consumption bundles were in your choice set: be obese and enjoy your current wealth. Don't be obese and enjoy your current wealth. Okay. This one is still in your choice set, but this one's gone. Right? You no longer have the option of remaining obese and maintaining your current wealth level. If you choose to remain obese, your wealth will go down by the size of the penalty. Okay. Another way of thinking of this, which you guys are more familiar with, and it's a very high order teaching goal of mine that you understand that this is the same, is to say, okay, here's the model of utility maximizing consumer allocating a fixed budget over two different goods, right? If this is sort of, in some sense, the price of body mass index, I don't know, obesity, whatever. Basically, right, if I place a tax on the thing I want you to change your behavior around, right, what I'm doing is that I am making your budget constraint steeper, okay? Which means here's a whole bunch of consumption bundles that used to be available to you that are not anymore. Okay, so if I impose a tax on you or a penalty, I've made the thing I don't want you to do more expensive, which means that I have major budget constraints deeper. I have curtailed your choice set. I've restricted your choice set. So it's now I don't have to sit and puzzle over whether giving someone an offer they can't refuse is coercion or not. I have defined the second criterion of the definition of libertarian paternalism in a way that's completely unambiguous. Okay? Whereas a subsidy, now of course I'd have to turn the diagram around, saying now I'm going to give you a subsidy for the thing I do want you to do, which is a subsidy for, I don't know, reducing your body mass index, right? So I'm going to call this, I don't know, whatever, non-obesity. Okay? I've just made non-obesity cheaper, right? But now if you choose non-obesity, I'll give you a subsidy. And so what I've done is that I've made your budget constraint less steep. I've added a bunch of choices to your choice set. Okay? So these are combinations of obesity and money that are now on the table that were previously not on the table. And I claim to have transformed the criteria of asymmetric paternalism into something rigorous. The price of... Oh, you're thinking about the fact that everybody has to pay taxes to subsidize. I'm waving my hand at the taxes side of things. I'm just saying for the specific individual, right? This is a criterion that is imposed that you want to apply to the behavioral choices of an individual, okay? And this individual, the increase in their tax for this policy is trivial for each individual, so we're going to ignore that. And what we really want to know is whether their choices. And the truth of the matter is, right, that doesn't. Sorry. The correct answer to your question is, if everybody's paying the same amount of tax, then that's not affected by their behavior. So it's not changing their. Yeah, it reduces their total wealth level, but that wealth level is not contingent upon their behavioral choices. So you'd be reducing everybody's choice a little bit with the tax, and then you'd be expanding it with the subsidy. Does that satisfy you? Ish? We can talk later. Okay. Good. All right. So now I'm going to walk you into like this. Where we're going to get to is this thing called Save More Tomorrow, which you have a paper I think assigned about this. It is a policy intervention, not necessarily government policy. It's a policy that can be implemented at the firm level by an employer. It was designed by Dick Thaler and Shlomo Benartzi, both of whom we've met before, right, in the equity premium puzzle. And they came with a set of insights from behavioral economics, and they designed policy intended to nudge people to save more for retirement without coercion, without restricting their choice set. Okay. But to get you there, I need to introduce an additional piece of behavioral economics called default bias, okay, which we haven't talked about before. So here's a puzzle. This is a sort of simple little example, perhaps not hugely significant, but very illustrative. So as of 2003, when the paper I'm about to refer to was written, 85% of Americans approved of organ donation. So organ donation is you give permission for your organs to be harvested, technical term, I didn't make that up, at the time of your death. So you need a liver transplant, somebody gets into a motorcycle accident, it cuts off their head, leaving their liver intact. You rush over, grab and take their liver and send it to the person who needs it. Fine. The question is whether or not the person in the motorcycle accident is willing to give permission to have their liver yanked out and sent to somebody else. Okay, so 85% of Americans approved of organ donation, but only 28% had signed a donor card which actually gives permission to use their organs after death. So what's going on? People's behavior does not seem to be reflecting their stated preferences. And then there's sort of the social cost of that, 45,000 people. Now you see, the pen has stopped functioning. Just like that. It's not mine. If it was, I would throw it against the wall. Great. Okay, I knew this was going to happen. Oh, it came back. I mean, I guess random chance could enter into your utility function in a positive way, right? It's exciting. It's like a party game. Okay, point of this is 45,000 people died waiting for an organ donor between 1998 and 2003. That's a bummer. We have a policy goal that we would like to pursue that could also bring people's choices more into alignment, at least with their stated preferences. Here's a possible explanation. We have opt-in versus opt-out default policies. Here is some data. Okay, this is data from Europe, and what we have here is we have a bunch of different countries, 11 of them, and this is the effective consent percentage. That's the percentage of people who have given their consent to have their organs harvested at the time of their death. Okay, going from 0 to 100. We have Denmark, the Netherlands, United Kingdom, and Germany down here at or below a quarter, and then we have these 7 countries spread pretty widely throughout Europe, including some former Eastern Bloc countries, Germanic, Northern Europe. France is just France, and they're all just about maxing out the consent rate. Okay. Question for you. Okay, so convenient fact for the purposes of social science. Nice thing about Europe is that sharing a large amount of common history and culture, we think that culturally a lot of these countries are pretty similar to one another, but they have significantly different policies. And to convince yourself of this, look, here's Germany, here's Austria. Historically, if we're not willing to treat those 2 countries as being culturally the same, something went very badly wrong in the late 30s. Okay. All right, what's the point? The point of all this is this. Which set of these countries do you think has opt-in organ donation? Which is partly a question. One way of asking the question is, what does opt-in mean? Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and... Okay, so what does opt-in mean? Somebody, anybody. What does opt-in mean? So you have to take an action to become a donor. Opt into becoming a donor. Fine. And so you said, well, your answer was A. Right. Okay. So that's my answer too. Whoopsie. Sorry about that. And we go there, and we go there. Yeah. And so most of you gave that answer too. Opt-in means you have to exert some effort, often completely trivial, sign the back of your driver's license, in order to effectuate the policy, in order to become an organ donor, in order to join some kind of program, in order to sign up for a retirement savings account, etc. And in this case, so that is the correct answer. And so what we see is that in countries